is opening day for Major League Baseball today. Welcome to L.A., home to the defending World Series champion Los Angeles, the Dodgers. You know, the Dodgers got a jump on everybody. They started the season last week. They had a 2-game sweep of the Cubs in Tokyo. That's how loaded the Dodgers are this year. On opening day, they're already 2 games ahead of everyone else. And they're only spending $398.2 million this year to do it. So they don't even need to steal bases. They just buy them from the other team. The Dodgers hosted the Tigers today at Dodger Stadium. It's an exciting time of the year. What are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, are you giving me the sign to steal?
No, my dressing room has a bed box.
His dressing room has bed bugs. We rehearsed this today, by the way.
Yeah.
Didn't anyone ever tell you we want a pitcher, not a belly itcher? You know, it's a big day for college basketball, too, the Sweet 16. This is kind of cool. This year, the winning school gets to keep their federal funding. I am currently, I'm pleased to say, in the driver's seat in our office NCAA pool. If Florida wins, I win the whole thing. If Houston, Tennessee, or Duke wins, one of the people who will be getting laid off next week wins the whole thing. But the real March Madness is happening in Washington, D.C. I know you've heard about or maybe even read the messages from the highly sensitive text chain between top government defense officials on Signal, which is not where highly sensitive chats are supposed to be taking place. They are also not supposed to include reporters. For reasons still unknown, our national security advisor, Mike Waltz, added the editor-in-chief from The Atlantic, who got to follow along as they shared top-secret details of a surprise military strike on the Houthi rebels in Yemen. It is a perfect storm of incompetence, inexperience, dishonesty, and hypocrisy from the same people who spent the last 12 years screaming about Hillary's emails and Hunter's laptop. There's no good excuse for what happened, and no one is going to be disciplined for it. But what do you do in a situation like this? I'll tell you what you do. You rely on your friends in the real news media to call it no big deal and shoo it away.
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh! Somebody saw a text message. Washington, D.C. is losing its mind. They should relax. This Signal Gate thing is not a big deal.
No one outside of D.C. and in the news business really cares about this story.
No one on the right cares.
Who cares?
Signal Gate, a name about as lame as their own manufactured outrage.
The Signal issue, it's such a non-issue.
This is kind of like a non-story right now.
Faux outrage.
This is a fake one-day story.
This is a faux controversy.
It's a hoax, it's a distraction.
Was this over?
Yeah, it's over.
So this thing's over.
I would say case closed. End of story.
No. Not end of story. This is like Harry Potter. There are many books and stories to come. And we're going to go through every bit, Hogwarts and all. We're going through all of it. Here's a question. If this isn't a story, if this is a non-story, why are you all still covering this story? Because it's a big story. It's a never-ending story. And we got a new chapter to this story this morning, because it turns out the same national security advisor, Michael Waltz, who started this ill-fated chain, also has a public Venmo account. You know how some people feel the need to share their Venmo transactions with everyone they know? Michael Waltz is one of them. He shares his name, there's a picture of him, and all of his contacts up on Venmo. Even Matt Gaetz was like, how could you be so careless with... For a guy who doesn't trust the mainstream media, he had a lot of them in his contact list. He had reporters from CNN, from MSNBC. He had the White House chief of staff. He had the attorney general. Various current and former members of the Trump administration were there. And security issues aside, isn't it a little bit disturbing that a guy overseeing our national defense, our weapons, our nuclear weapons, is still in the dude, you owe me $14 for tacos phase of his life? Because of how incredibly sloppy they are, a German newspaper, Der Spiegel, was able to find personal email addresses, phone numbers, and passwords, some of which seem to be still in use for Mike Waltz, Tulsi Gabbard, and Pete Hegseth. What a group. We have a national security advisor who doesn't know how to secure, a defensive secretary of defense, a pro-measles secretary of health, and a secretary of education who wants to close the Department of Education. But what White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt, she's standing firm. She said today the administration has been incredibly transparent about this entire situation. Yeah, that's the problem. They've been so transparent, we've seen all their information. Now, a lot of the focus, fairly or not, is on Pete Hegseth, who, before he was Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth was a weekend host on Fox and Friends. He's the one who disclosed the plan of attack in detail, which led some to speculate that maybe he was drinking on the job, which is a vicious rumor, one that his former colleagues at Fox were eager to squash.
The secretary's been open and transparent about him turning his life around, and he doesn't drink anymore. As a matter of fact, I was down there reporting in Texas. He was there, and I forgot all about it. And I said, we got to catch up over beers. He was like, dude, I seriously don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Boy.
He never had a drinking problem. There were times
No,
when he
I
drank
know.
too much.
It was-
they drank too much.
But he just gave it up.
Right.
Completely.
But he just totally. So there were no misspellings in that exchange. There was nothing that was bizarre. It was extremely official.
You know how sometimes your friends defend you and you wish they wouldn't? In the old days when Pete would get hammered in text, he had everything spelled wrong, his thoughts were bizarre. This had none of that. There wasn't even a pick. I believe that Pete Hegseth wasn't drunk I believe he was perfectly sober when he made this idiotic mistake. Pete Hegseth and Mike Waltz have said and done so many stupid things this week, Trump might have to start calling them Eric and Don Jr. President Trump hasn't fired anyone. He hasn't disciplined anyone. In fact, he's calling it a witch hunt. And he's blaming it. First, he blamed it on the reporter. And when that didn't work, he blamed it on the app itself.
I don't know that Signal works. I think Signal could be defective, to be honest with you. And I think that's what we have to, because you use Signal and we use Signal and everybody uses Signal. But it could be a defective platform, and we're going to have to find that out.
Right. Maybe one of the wires came loose and the gasket got cracked. Blaming Signal for this is like blaming Tinder when you get caught cheating on your wife. The good news for Trump is there's a tell-all coming out next week about another president, not him, Joe Biden. It's called Fight Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House. And one of the revelations is that aides to Kamala Harris had secret meetings about what to do if Biden died in office, which isn't that kind of the vice president's whole job? Is that surprising? What do you expect they'll be talking about when the president's in his 80s? His birthday party? Why were these meetings even secret meetings? They could have just held them while Jeopardy was on. He's not going to notice. Meanwhile, Robert Kennedy has announced that the Department of Health and Human Services is expected to cut at least 10,000 employees, which makes why cut these employees? Just wait a few months for measles or bird flu to take them out. Are we sure that worm in his brain is dead? Maybe it laid eggs or something? The Trump administration is also cutting funding. They're cutting people that were helping health officials in Texas fight the measles outbreak there. You know, for a long time, Republicans have been arguing that government can't do anything right. Now they're making absolutely sure of it. There have been hundreds of cases of measles in Texas, but the state legislature is focused on more important things. They're working to pass a bill that would require Texans to show photo ID in order to purchase sex toys. The bill, SB 3003, which kind of looks like boobs if you look at it the right way, was introduced by State Senator Angela Paxton, who's the wife of State Attorney General Ken Paxton. She came up with this after she looked in his sock drawer. And this is Mrs. Paxton, seen here asking, "You put a what in your what?" The bill, what the bill does is it classifies a sex toy as an obscene device, according to the Texas Penal Code, which, right? An obscene device is a device including a dildo or artificial vagina designed or marketed as useful primarily for the stimulation of human genital organs. Human genital organs. You can still get any at Petco. You can get all the. You know, Ted Cruz fought and lost a very similar federal case back in 2007 because he was unable to prove that he has human genital organs. all he could come up with was a limp cluster of squid tentacles. So it is currently illegal to own 6 or more sex toys in the state of Texas. But don't worry, you can still have an unlimited number of guns. And then, over in the Texas House of Representatives, they're cracking down on an even greater threat.
A bill filed in the Texas House would stop students from acting like any other than a human being at school. The bill is meant to specifically target what are known as furries. A furry is a person who dresses up or behaves like an animal with human characteristics. The law would ban non-human behavior such as using a litter box, wearing tails, animal ears, leashes, collars, or any other accessories used for animals. It also bans students from barking, meowing, or hissing and licking oneself or others for grooming. A hearing has not yet been set for this bill.
You can't do any of that anymore. Everybody's going nuts. You know, the board of Ben & Jerry's, which is one of the most notoriously liberal companies there is, accused their parent company, Unilever, of silencing them. So Unilever fired the Ben & Jerry's CEO. And while Unilever has not indicated that this has anything to do with politics, some of their new flavors, I don't know, they seem awfully suspicious. Have you seen they've got Proud Boysenberry, they're eating the Pretz, Heil Vanitler, Chunky Monkey, Grab 'em by the Pistachio, Sean Bananity, Dum Dums, and Lauren Boebert's hand-cranked cookie dough. Everything has been turned upside down. Trump this week said he's thinking about giving compensation to the January 6ers for the income they lost while doing time for storming the Capitol, for real. And there's even a law firm looking for people to represent.
Have you or a loved one suffered respiratory problems after pepper spraying a Capitol police officer? Have you been persecuted for defecating in a congresswoman's ficus? Did getting arrested in a public building cause you to miss your court date for an unrelated sex offense?
Hey, man.
The President Trump Justice Department wants you to know you might be entitled to compensation. Our team of community college-educated lawyers will fight to get you paid for the Facebook friends you've lost. The government you tried to overthrow could owe you money for trespassing, treason, vandalism, assault, smashing a police shield through a government window, hunting the vice president so you and your fat mom can zip tie and drag him to be publicly executed, and so much more. Call the law offices of Truck and Nuts at 1-800-720-0622. Get the compensation you deserve today. If you stormed the Cap, we've got your back. Compensation amounts may vary, not legal in any states. Very fine people on both sides. Bigly, Covfefe, void where prohibited, may cause diarrhea.
Guillermo, do you know how many subscribers we have on YouTube now?
20 million.
That's right, yeah. That's why we're wearing these glasses. Thanks for being a subscriber. If you're not, help us get to 20,000,001.